Persepolis is a graphic novel by Marjane Satrapi that illustrates a slice of Iranian culture and history, specifically the Iranian Revolution of 1978 and the war that followed. However, this is not a historical or educational novel. It is a compilation of the memories of a victim and survivor of these horrible conflicts. Targeted towards a global audience, the author needed a narrative that would be understandable for everyone, no matter how foreign they were to the situation. This narrative is what makes Persepolis such a groundbreaking novel. Since through childhood's innocence, Persepolis maintains an objective and unbiased perspective that helps Western readers understand something as distant and foreign as the Iranian Revolution.
The innocence portrayed through Margie's perspective in Persepolis helps exhibit the dystopian scenario where she was physically and emotionally held captive. She hears of atrocities she can't even come to comprehend, and constantly struggles to understand her context. Therefore, when one of her relatives is tortured in a water chamber, Margie takes a very long bath in order to try and understand what her grandparent was put through in prison, struggling psychologically to understand how a water chamber was a method of torture. She can't immediately, but little by little, her comprehension of her context becomes clearer and broader. Another example of this is when her neighborhood is bombed, and when she comes back, she sees the hand of a corpse, the corpse of her neighbor.
Marjane's innocence makes the intentions of her actions purer. She was very positive for her future in the religion when she was younger, making her consider even becoming a prophet of the religion. She had an altruist vision of the world and wanted to help everyone she could by expanding and carrying her religious beliefs to help others. This is a clear example of how her young perspective and innocence alters her thoughts and ideas on religion. An example is when she goes to visit Anush, his uncle who was accused for spying and put into jail. He was only allowed one visitor, and when she gets there, he puts his arms around her and calls her the star of his life. Afterwards, he gets executed, making Margie feel as if God, her only friend, has abandoned her.
The development of Margie's childhood also represents a loss of innocence that is shown by her shifting ideals. Through this line of thought, Satrapi recasts the simplistic labels that the Western cultures have assigned to the Middle East, by showing the complicated political history and situation of her own family. For example, in the opening pages, the hijab. When the Islamic Revolution began in 1980, Margie's world is turned upside down. She is forced to attend an all-girls fundamentalist school and wear the religious headscarf, the hijab. In the graphic novel, this is illustrated by a drawing of children playing irreverently with the scarves and saying things like, "Ooh, I'm the monster of darkness." From this event, Margie makes a note. We didn't like to wear the veil, especially since we didn't understand why we had to. Her cool clothes. A year after her uncle dies, Margie's parents promise her to bring pop star posters from Turkey. To smuggle them into the country, her mom sews them into his father's overcoat. Posters, a denim jacket, a Michael Jackson pin, and Nike sneakers. The first day she leaves her house with her new clothes, she's stopped by the police force, and she makes up an absurd excuse for justifying her clothes.
We can perceive how Margie becomes a Western ideology individual when she starts her own teenage rebellion, dressing and acting in a completely different way than that she was supposed to. This is an evidence of how children, even though they seem to have a more objective perspective of said situation, there is a point where this becomes null, and her perspective is hardly influenced by her context, making it a subjective point of view.
The child's perspective of Persepolis is reinforced through the use of particular narrative conventions that derive from the graphic novel. Literature is a term coined and defined by the literary critic Ross Chambers as a genre which, in opposition to dominant forces of narrative, relies on techniques of digression, interruption, deferral, and episodicy. Hence, Satrapi's dive into literature forces the reader to look around, to linger and remember. This translates to the visual idiom that works to evaluate our critical perspectives and purviews of the non-Western culture. In an era in which the post-colonial perspective intends to portray third-world women as victims, Satrapi portrays herself as a young girl whose favorite comic book is titled Dialectical Materialism and features graphic confrontations between Descartes and Marx, but whose favorite board game is still Monopolies. These moments illustrate the child's contradictory discourses that shape her world's perspective.
Satrapi wrote Persepolis while she was in France, years after the Iranian Revolution had concluded. Her novel shows not only a part of Iran's history but the power of childhood memories and the construction of identity as well. Every experience displayed in her book had occurred years before, but these texts demonstrate how she remembered every part of it, even if it occurred while she was only a child. Marjane shared these experiences through her book not only as a way to heal, but with the intention of sharing what she suffered. Through her childhood memories, she avoids judgment, even social rules sometimes, and says everything as it is. Satrapi demonstrates that when we are children, we are blank pages that become filled with information as we grow older. As foreign readers, we need to be as blank pages as well, and Margie's innocence is what helps us become as such. Therefore, when reading Persepolis, we grow with Margie and fill our pages beside her.